when you were talking about can we actually fire the content person, I would say take that budget and learn how to ask questions, because I think that's the essential new skill that we all need to learn. And by learning how to ask questions and to specify questions more precisely, we can implicitly train the system.
Welcome to this podcast, How AI Will Transform Marketing Communication, produced by the Empringham organization. Like many of you, I'm baffled with the possibilities and the quality of AI and ChatGPT-3. ChatGPT-3 was making headlines in the late-night talk shows and news programs, newspapers across the globe for the past few weeks. I have 3 EO members joining me to discuss the implications of AI on marketing and on content creation. I've got Scott Empringham from EO Orange County. He is the CEO of Empringham Media Group and co-founder of AI Content Pro. Markus Wuebben from EO Berlin. He is the CMO and co-founder of CrossEngage. And Shaheen Samavati from EO Madrid, CEO of Vera Content. My name is Robert Van Der Zwart from EO Netherlands, sitting in for Neers Avaro. The next 30 minutes or so, we'll discuss why everybody's talking about OpenAI and ChatGPT-3 right now, ways we are using or have seen AI working in marketing flows, and what are the potential applications for AI in marketing we are most excited about. And the last and final question is, how do we stay relevant and how most of our business models will evolve and how to deal with the rapid changes that we are expecting. Now, Markus, to start with you, what is AI and what's ChatGPT-3 for those who have been sleeping under a rock over the past few weeks?
So, Robert, first of all, thanks for having me on this show. And you were actually giving me the toughest question. As actually, you know, it's a philosophical question, right? What is AI? But if you ask me if you want a proper definition or a clear definition, to me, AI is a technique that enables computers to mimic reasoning, logic, and behavior of humans. That's basically what I see as AI. But for many AI, they associate AI, especially technical people, they associate AI with something called deep learning, which is basically something based on neural networks. And neural networks resemble the structure of a brain. And that makes AI and neural networks and deep learning so interesting, because we can really resemble ways the brain works. And that opens a huge class of problems we can solve and attack now, which have never been able which we've never been able to address, really. One of them, and we all know this. Robert, do you have an Alexa at home from Amazon?
No.
You do not? Does it?
No,
maybe
I don't know.
I have one.
I refuse.
So I use these models every day in terms of shut up, Alexa, stop the alarm. So anything built on speech, which is called natural language processing, is really using these deep networks, deep neural networks, and that's what technical people look at when they talk about AI.
Shaheen, why is everybody talking about OpenAI and ChatGPT-3 right now?
Well, from what I understand, I mean, ChatGPT came out in November 2022, so it's really new. And it basically got picked up it just went trending and viral over the last month because it got picked up by some major news outlets. But basically, this technology has existed for several years now. It's created by OpenAI, and they... I think the GPT, the model has existed for a few years, but the latest version and API came out in 2020, I think. So there's been a lot of apps built around GPT technology over the past couple of years, and but this chat has, I think, really made it brought it to everyone's attention, and it's like open to the public. Anyone can use it. It's free. So that's why everyone is just getting on there and making YouTube videos about it and talking about it, because it's so easily accessible.
Scott, what makes you so excited about AI?
I think for me, I view AI through the lens of how I can use it on behalf of my customers. I've got thousands of dealers that I've worked with and retailers that I've worked with that need to solve specific marketing problems. One specific problem is 3 months ago, we'd be working with dealers and retailers across the country, and they'd say, well, I need an email campaign that's going to go out once a week to my ideal customers. And I need, say, 12 Facebook posts and Instagram posts and LinkedIn posts. and I need a good blog that's going to educate my customers and help me convert more customers more quickly and more easily. Personalization and customization at scale has been the biggest breakthrough for us. What took $2,000 or $3,000 a month or $4,000 a month and a month to create or 2 months to create can now be created in moments, in minutes, not months, and is the other guests have said, for free. And what we've done with AI Content Pros, we've created a framework, a platform that sits on ChatGPT to make it accessible to the retailer who could just type in a couple pieces of information, like Markus was saying about their ideal customer, and out comes a 4-touch email campaign, 12 Facebook posts, and 12 ads, and a really highly customized blog in moments. So it solves that specific problem, and then they can plug it into the various tools that they use to reach their customers.
But how does it work? So it seems to me it's like a black box. How does it work?
I think that's a Markus question. I don't know how electricity works either. I just know it turns on.
So basically what this GPT-3 thing does, and it's basically the third version of a family of simple language models. It's a certain way we train basically a statistical model on language. So the first version was kind of simple in terms of the data and the text that was loaded into the system. And the cool thing now is just the immense number of documents and parameters these models are taking. And GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, so a very technical term. But basically, what it does, it can learn. It's an unsupervised learning, so it basically learns by itself what is the right answer, and that's just amazing. Usually, remember AI that can detect cats and dogs? You need to train an AI. So this is a cat, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a dog. And the cool thing about ChatGPT, it kind of learns from the data which word is the most probable next word to say. That's basically how it works. And then it kind of adds up and builds text upon this, given the input that we get that are there as questions. So that's basically what it is.
How can it create context? So it predicts the next word, but if you input a question, it seems to generate also the right context.
Yeah, I mean, context, so it can, anything that it can derive basically from these texts are great. But where it basically, for example, has problems when you say about context is, for example, toxic language. So remember this bot from Microsoft a couple of years ago when they trained this bot with very bad, like Nazi kind of language, really, really bad. And Microsoft had to turn it off after a day because people trained it with the wrong things. And so this is, for example, something that ChatGPT can't easily do. They built in kind of measures into the system, like really, for example, toxic language, also like swear words. So just a list of words that it won't process. So this part of the context is not easily detectable by GPT-3 or any of these models. That's what we as humans interpret as something. So anything that comes from the models really is something in a probabilistic way that the model found on different web pages, documents, where it sees probabilities, how they are linked together. And the way to understand language is basically just to reverse the information.
Shaheen, why is it that ChatGPT-3 makes its way into marketing and generating marketing texts? I think it does probably pretty good.
Well, is the question how does it do it, or why does it do
it? Why does it in particular for marketing?
Well, I think there's unlimited applications for what ChatGPT can do, or GPT-3 model in general. But I think marketing is one of the most obvious ones because it's an area where, tons of content is necessary and you need to generate. I mean, the way marketing is done nowadays, it's so much based on content generation. So, basically. And I think marketing content is many types of it are relatively easy to produce, and it's something that, that the chat is capable of. I was saying that there's actually there were several tools based on GPT-3 that existed even before ChatGPT, and this is something that I had been looking at to implement potentially in my business. And about a year ago, I was really comparing all of these tools, and I thought it's not there yet. It's this can't really do the job of a copywriter. But now it's completely changed. It's improved so much that it actually is getting close to be able to do it. And I think that especially for small business owners, it's really interesting. And I know that's what Scott is focused on, is helping smaller businesses. Yeah. And I think for someone who doesn't have a team of writers, it's a really powerful way to be able to kind of to read, to like format your thoughts, but I still think for my target clients, which are more enterprise companies, it's, well, and the professional, I guess, kind of the expectations for the output that we're putting out, it's still wouldn't save us that much time to use this kind of technology in our normal workflow, at least as of today.
Yeah. To put a blunt question, Scott, you have probably the most experience with, can I fire my content writer, my text writer?
If you have depends. So for Shaheen, if she's dealing with enterprise clients, the answer is probably no. With my clients, with the hundreds and hundreds of small businesses I work with, the answer is yes. Tomorrow, today, cut the expense. I work with, as an example, there's a young woman I work with. She came through my workshop. She has 2 boutiques, one in Laguna Beach and one in Orange. They're both clothing stores. She's on razor thin margins. She's running between stores, and she has, $800 a month to do marketing to help promote her store, somewhere in there. And so as I walked her through the workshop and some of the tools, now she's using ChatGPT and some of our tools to help produce a massive amount of content to help her promote one live virtual fashion show every month. And it's $100. And she's got $700 now to put into media, or $500 to put into media to boost it and reach thousands more people. And her content writer was charging about $800, $900, $1,000. So for her, I would say today's the last day of the copywriter. Get in the workshop, get going, and start using some of these tools. We're now working with virtual assistant companies that are now powering their virtual assistants to be directors of marketing. These are virtual assistants that are getting paid $400, $600, $800 a month. And now they're getting trained on these tools, really well trained, like getting creative brief trained, like a director of marketing might be trained in using these tools, inputting those elements into a form, getting all the content back. And so it's taking a virtual assistant that you're spending $400 a month on and making her or him really, really powerful. Again, enterprise clients probably won't work, but for the boutique who needs to do a virtual fashion show once a month, kills it. Absolutely kills it.
Yeah, I think it depends on what standard you need. Like, I don't think all types of content creation need to be the stellar top of the line content, but when you are a large corporation, the expectation is that you are going to be putting out excellent content all the time, and it can't have a mistake or something embarrassing would be very expensive for them. Sure. Where for a small business owner, it's not such a risk. I mean, you put tons of content out there, it works, it doesn't. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, it's also something that you have the power to oversee yourself. Whereas if you have like a team and you need to like kind of keep track of everything everyone's doing and every piece of content that goes out on a huge scale, you kind of need quality control checks in there. Where I think if you're one person, it's a totally different story. Yeah.
One of the critique points on AI and ChatGPT in particular is that a lot of people are dissatisfied with the output. How can we increase the quality of the output?
Essentially, if you look at Google, and they created something called RankBrain. I think it's RankBrain or RankBrain. Sorry, I think it's RankBrain right now. And basically what it does, it automatically learns from the user response whether the search results that they are presenting on the first page or on that page are actually the right results. So basically what you need from these systems, and when you click, the first link, the Google RankBrain basically knows, hey, that was a good recommendation as a search result. And if you don't click, so the implicit response basically, I'm only clicking, the result on the fourth page, then Google also notices that. So you need some kind of feedback to optimize that. So basically, you could start with a thumbs up, thumbs down thing, very, very simple, as a good or bad thing, but it really doesn't help the model to distinguish. So you would need to actually interact, and by chatting and say like, this was not specific enough, I would need more details into this and that. But basically, you can train the system by talking to it. And then, therefore, when you were talking about, can we actually fire the content person, I would say take that budget and learn how to ask questions, because I think that's the essential new skill that we all need to learn. And by learning how to ask questions and to specify questions more precisely, we can implicitly train the system. I think that's
so we need to learn. Basically, we need to learn a new language. How to speak to an AI. Scott, I've been in one of your workshops, and you talk about prompt engineering. Yeah. Is that something that we can learn, or?
Yeah, I think so. Years ago, I had the good fortune to go to work for somebody who was a former president of Saatchi & Saatchi ad agency, and he taught me the creative briefing process. And he said, whenever you sit down with a client, you have a creative brief. A creative brief determines what questions you're going to ask the client, so you get the right answers back, so you can formulate the right strategy, the right tactics, the right positioning, the right everything. And it's garbage in, garbage out. If you ask the right questions, you can start to formulate the right responses. So we call it prompt engineering. So we took some of our best creative briefs and put it into Content Pro that allows a small business owner, again, back to the small business owner, she owns 2 boutiques. She knows all about her ideal audience. All she needs to do is have somebody sit in front of her and say, tell me who that ideal audience is. What problems do you solve for them? And then ask them 6 or 7 questions. She types that in, and then ChatGPT interprets that, parses the information, and crafts a beautiful campaign for her. So now she could just give it to her virtual assistant and plug it in, or she could do it. So the right questions is everything, and it's a new phrase that we're hearing, prompt engineering. It's asking the right questions. Just like Markus said, it's knowing what to ask. When you know what to ask and you put it in, it can do beautiful things.
If I may add on top of this, essentially we already faced that problem about 15 years ago when Google was new to everyone. And you could actually, remember when you sometimes saw maybe, I don't know, elderly people or people who were not into tech and they were trying to Google what they put in. Essentially, we're back at that problem, just 100 times more complicated, right? I mean, that's
careful
basically
what you say now, eh?
Huh?
Careful what you say.
You look very, very young. Very young. Is that an AI-generated image here you are, Robert? But I think we've had that problem before, and it's just getting more intense. And it's not about knowing things anymore, but it's really about understanding the business. So a lot of people really don't understand what they're working on. Maybe it's just a very creative task. I think it will be more important for those people to get more hands-on skills on the topic, because then you're actually able to ask the right questions, right? That's I think will be the challenge.
Shaheen, you work in 20 different countries, so I guess in a similar number of languages. How good is ChatGPT in these languages?
Yeah, from what I've seen, it's quite good. I mean, I've seen a lot of the apps that use GPT-3 advertise that they work in more than 25 languages. So from the tests that I've done, I've tested in several languages, and the output has been similar to English. So it's really impressive, way better than anything I've seen before. Like a lot of apps that I've tested in the past were only in English, it seems to have scraped the internet in all languages and is able to do the same thing across them. So it's amazing, really.
Yeah. That's interesting, right? Because that really shows that it really just learns the combination of words. It really is not that it understands the language, but the probability of words that occur in with a high probability. And that's also the challenge and the limitation, I think, of ChatGPT at one point.
Yeah, it almost can replace the need for translation software, because people see it probably translates better than a lot of translation software does. Yep. Because it includes context. Yeah.
I did try to have a number of very technical medical text through ChatGPT-3, see if it was able to translate. It did a fairly good job, but we still needed to have an editor looking at the text just to correct it, just to be absolutely sure that the information that was outputted was 100% correct.
Yeah, so it's definitely not perfect today, but I think that it definitely could be practically perfect in the future. Yeah.
Now we're talking about text. There are other applications also that are using AI. Shaheen, you have been testing a number of these tools. What are the great tools that you're very excited about?
Yeah, I think for basically what I do, and basically we do large-scale content creation and management for social media and blogs. And what we're using AI the most for is definitely for transcription. It's amazing there and works really well. as well as like automatic subtitling of videos. Also for translation, I mean, we use a computer-assisted translations tools that use the AI, and that means that it just facilitates the whole process of translating and is able to identify what things don't need to be translated and so forth, what are proper nouns and stuff like that. Editing software, things like Grammarly, WordTune, those work really well. I'm really excited about how we can use copy generators. Like I said, I've been trying to figure out how it would work. And I definitely think it is at the stage it's at now is useful for idea generation, really useful for repurposing and reformatting. If you put content in that in one format, you can get it out in another, and all you need to do is edit it, and it saves a lot of time. Obviously, it's not good at coming up with unique insights or original content, so that's something that the writer still needs to do. And I guess that was kind of my point. If you're the business owner, you know what you want to write about, you can put it in. But if you need to create content at scale, you need several knowledgeable people doing that research. So you still need a content team. But a tool like GPT-3 or ChatGPT can totally facilitate that process.
Guys, what are your what other applications are you most excited about? Graphics, music, analytics?
Well, I'm super excited about all this deepfake and video generation. So this will be a big thing in marketing, also for creating video character or like real life characters, which are AI characters will do the advertising for you. Video production will be much cheaper. But think about this. There's also DALL-E from Microsoft, which can imitate like speech now. So we will hear a lot of speeches from people that they've never given. And think about it this way, just like I'm always very squeezed and pressed on time, but just imagine that I could train a model which basically gives the video of myself talking about a text that has been generated from kind of my own way of ChatGPT, like my own knowledge or what, how I would be talking. And then with DALL-E, you can simulate my voice. And then I can just do video content with my face, with my voice, and I've never spoken a word or showed my face into the camera. I think this is just going to be crazy. Also on the critical side, because we will see, presidents of states saying things where it will be very hard to differentiate whether they've actually said that. But if we want to use it as a positive way, I think you can just generate all kinds of content, video, text, automatically without you actually having to do it.
Scott, graphics generation?
Midjourney is really cool. I love Midjourney. Midjourney is really, really powerful. I think one of the things I'm really excited about is Synthesia. So one question that came up was the language. So we work with a group of dealers, and they were really interested in targeting Hispanic car shoppers. So we went up to the dealer group, we sat down with the retailers, we sat down with them, we crafted a strategy, we crafted the copy, we did everything, we set everything up. And then when it came time to create the content, the wheels fell off. They loved the campaign that we came up with. So now we could come up with a campaign and probably just as part of our core service, either train them on how to do it. So we've got an online course that teaches them exactly how to place their ads, how to do a lot of the stuff. With Synthesia, now I don't have to go back and re-record everything. I can choose an avatar, plug all that content, transcribe it, plug all it into the Synthesia, and just like Markus said, I don't have to go back into the studio and stumble through take after take after take after take and then be worried that I didn't get any sleep the night before and I'm going to stumble over my words. With Synthesia, I choose an avatar, maybe even give myself an English accent.
You can get your own avatar.
Or even better, help train the Hispanic sales associates and service associates, choose the Synthesia avatar, put it in Spanish, plug all my content in, and get them trained immediately on how to do it. So that to me is a really, really exciting thing. It's all time. How do you leverage your time when everybody's so squeezed for time? That's the one biggest thing. It's like after these workshops we've been doing for 2 years, there's 3 questions we get from the very small business owner. What do I say? How do I create it? And how do I find the time to do it with all the other stuff that I'm doing? These tools, whether it's Midjourney, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's AI Content Pro, all these tools are time savers for those people that are just already starved to try to get it all done. They know they got to do it, but they can't get themselves to actually find the time to do it. these tools help them do it faster.
You know, if everybody's using AI-generated content, and some people say that in 2 years from now, 90% of all content on the internet will be AI-generated. Don't we have the risk that at a certain point that everything becomes generic? So the question that I basically have is, how can we stand out and remain relevant?
Honestly, Robert, I think 80% of the people will not notice. To be honest, I don't think so. Like all the weather reports in on news sites, they've been auto-generated for years now, as far as I know. And nobody's ever said, hey, this weather forecast really sounds like, an AI or a machine that does that. No, I think it will be so good, the generated text. And as I think, Shaheen, you said that, right, that it answers with different text over and over. So I think we get some variance in the output just by doing that. So again, and for those 10%, 20%, I think there will be an issue, and there are already projects. I think one of them is called Zero GPT, which is made for detecting whether a text is really like authentic or it's been computer generated. But I'm not sure whether this will really solve a problem.
So
for
teachers, there is some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Because
this is a big thing.
Yeah. So the things that I read in the newspaper is that a lot of teachers, AI drives them nuts because they couldn't check whether a student handed in an essay written by themselves or by ChatGPT-3. Yeah. So we can detect it. Now the other question that I have is, if we are able to detect it, Google will also able to detect it. Don't we stand the risk that we will be put on a lower in the Google rankings?
Well, I wanted to say on the original question, like I don't think it should matter if it's AI generated or not. What should matter is if it's a good content or not, right? Because you can create great content with AI if you're putting good information in, and then the result is going to be good potentially. So, and I don't think Google says that they're able to detect AI generated content, or that they will be, but that's not necessarily true. So especially as these models get more and more sophisticated. So yeah, that's my thought on it.
My stake is actually that Google really needs to invest themselves into these kind of models, because you now know how easy it is to switch a search engine. And what do I care about being on the second page if I'm really like Microsoft invested in OpenAI as far as I know.
Yeah.
And so what they want to do, in my view, is they want to revolutionize Bing. And then they really have an asset. And then why do I care, to be on the second page of Google if they detect me, if the new search engine is Bing? And because everybody is using that, I think the entire search engine space will be revolutionized by these kind of models. And I think that's Microsoft's move. And on the other hand side, I think you said something really interesting about students. I think that's a really big thing, AI, and, philosophical question, but are we actually teaching the right things, or shouldn't we be able to teach students how to ask the right questions? Right, because assembling information and putting together, that's essentially solved. So, are we, is the school system basically already caught up with what technology gives us? Right, we're using calculators for 30 years.
So we should compare it with this.
Basically. Exactly. It's exactly that.
It's a pretty old one. This is a pretty old one, though.
Yeah, but it does its job, right? I mean, that's what it is. And and just, imagine like super old teachers that, oh, no, they all using calculators. They run around with their brains in their hand. And, essentially you can only use a calculator if you know how to put in the equation, right? It does the calculation. And that's the same with ChatGPT, right? The way you ask questions basically determines whether you get a good result.
Yeah, and I think there's already like a ton of junk on the internet. I mean, like, up to now, people have been outsourcing their content to content mills, and people who don't know how to write are coming up with a bunch of gobbledygook. I don't think that the results of AI generated content are necessarily worse than that. They might actually be better. And actually, Google has said that they're updating their algorithms to give more weight to things that have unique insight, which I imagine they were trying to do for a long time anyway. But I think, yeah, regardless of how it was produced, the important thing is that it does bring something unique to the table and has original content. And so if you can source original content using AI tools, that would be great. Yeah.
Are there any issues with copyrights? Because one other thing is if you learn from, for instance, Delhi takes graphics, and if you ask for, okay, I would like to have a picture in the style of Van Gogh, you will get it. But the question here is, who owns the copyrights? And is this an infringement on copyrights?
I believe that they say that anything that it produces belongs to you. That if you use these tools, technically they give you the rights to the output.
Yeah. And also, like, the way it's trained right now is on publicly available information, right? I can't remember the name of the data set, but it's common something. It's a huge collection of information, and as long as this information is basically, copyright free, then the model in itself can't really hurt that. On the picture side, I'm really not sure, but I wouldn't just allow ChatGPT to kind of source, some business information that I have in my application. I mean, we could use ChatGPT really nicely in our customer data platform for having our clients ask really specific questions on what segment should I be prioritizing next, right? What should I be doing? And of course, I don't want that information, these advices, to be out in the internet. So I would lock this, kind of like on Google, the search engine, where you can basically give like a file where it says don't index that page,
Yeah.
or that page. Something like this needs to come as well.
Specifically with DALL-E and the terms and conditions I was looking at, that you do get the rights to the images that it produces, but it obviously would be crappy to say do it in the style of like a living artist and then ripping off their work. I mean, but I think
That's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
There's actually a very good Netflix series around a guy who did this. Who was really he was faking all kinds of artists. He did this very well. Bataki or something like this. Bataki. Super interesting on Netflix. Can only recommend that. So he actually did exactly that just by his hands. Interesting.
But
He was never caught.
Yeah.
Wow.
But doing it with software, it's basically need to do work on your prompt engineering, asking the right questions.
Yeah.
The work that I tried to produce with Midjourney, it was difficult to produce the images that I wanted. Some of the characters I produced had like 6 fingers or really big hands or whatever. I don't know yet. Anyway, how do
There
we
are
see
actually consultants who just only do that. They teach you how to do prompts.
prompt engineering? So how do we see the future, guys?
Wow.
Who wants to
Who want to go first? Who is the visionary?
I'm certainly not a visionary, but I will go back in time. I have early memories of sitting on my dad's office floor, early 70s, maybe 1974, and he had graph paper. And what he had me do, he was a financial manager, a stockbroker, and he would have me chart stocks by hand. And he told me that the purpose of charting stocks by hand on graph paper, although laborious and time-consuming, was you would get a feel for how that stock was moving and how you get a feel for the market. It was basically just saying, putting a highlight on something that was very time-consuming. And then computers came out, and my dad was one of the very first innovators to be on a computer. And, of course, he was running simulations. I said, what happened to the stock picking and the graph paper? He said, no, throw that out. This is a brand new way to do it. and I think...
He probably used Harvard graphics or something.
He may have. I mean, he was an early adopter, and for me, it's kind of interesting. I try to look at things as just a tool. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know how it works. I don't know so much about it. And I remember someone asking me, when you find something that works and you could use it, sometimes, if it's not pertinent to your business, you don't necessarily have to know how it works. I don't know how electricity works or refrigeration works, but I'm sure glad I can go to the refrigerator and use it. When my kids start using it, and my kids have, it's really interesting to see them adopt it and ask questions, get a prompt, and then manipulate it. And to them, it's now becoming second nature already, both my son and my daughter. The last thing I'll say is my son actually asked an interesting question. He said, He wanted to create a PowerPoint presentation that he wanted to make to me. He's 10. He wanted to make a PowerPoint presentation on the 3 reasons why he should have unlimited gaming time. And you know what ChatGPT said? There's no reason I can give you, no legitimate reason I can give you that a child should have unlimited gaming time. And so it gave him an answer back. And so we talked a little bit about it. He goes, so what do I do? And I said, it's a question, you ask it. And so we talked a little bit about the value of questions. And he said, okay, in what ways can gaming benefit youth? And then it gave him a bunch of answers. In what ways can you use gaming to produce a better result for kids? So he was asking questions and getting answers. And I think I can't even imagine how kids are going to use it, but they're far more creative than me. And they're growing up on it right now.
Shaheen, any comments?
Well, that's tough to follow. I mean, in general, I think I'm just excited for all the future applications of AI and how it'll hopefully free us up to be able to focus on work where we bring the most value, strategy, and creativity. Obviously, this is something that is like AI copywriting is something that directly impacts my business. So I know we mentioned about how to adapt in these changing times, and I think my business is probably eventually going to evolve into some kind of consulting on how to implement AI tools rather than being a copywriting business. We're going to help people implement these things well.
Markus, any comments?
Yeah, I mean,
or any visionary thoughts?
I think we're going to see 3 things. The first thing is we're going to see, again, ever increasing speed in business. As we've seen, it's exponential, right? And exponential is tough at the stage we are in. So again, it will be the new normal. So again, we have to differentiate ourselves in the future because everybody's using the system. So there will be a new challenge. The second challenge is really, as Scott just elaborated with his kids, right? The ability to ask questions will be a completely new skill that we all need to learn. And I think on the longer scope or the broader scope, I think that authenticity will be something that we need to care about and talk about, because just imagine you believe that any content that you're seeing is actually AI and not really real. Then I believe this thing of authenticity, I'm seeing the real, Shaheen, the real Scott, and the real Robert has actual value, because anything else is just fake, right? So authenticity, and how we can elaborate and really use authenticity in this, very fast business world, and really kind of, spill this in as points of, the highlights basically of content. I think this is going to be a challenge.
So is it fair to say share the experience with our fellow EO members is just to try it out, experiment with it, see what it brings. Don't stick your head into the sand and deny that AI, I've heard about it. I don't know, like many of us did when the internet was introduced, or the mobile phones. Why the hell do we need a mobile phone?
You know what? Yeah, the really tough thing for me is I started studying computer science in 1997. And my dad said, why are you trying to study computer science? At one point, everybody will be able to program. And Jesus, he's going to be right. Now you just have to ask a question on ChatGPT that's going to write you a Python program. So at the end of the day, my dad was actually right 30 years ago, 25 years ago. So why should you study computer science in that thing? But at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's been unleashed, kind of like genie from the bottle. It's now out, and it's the new gold standard. So anyone who doesn't really care about this will be left behind. Just frankly speaking.
1,000%. It reminds me, Markus, Steve Jobs, when he was asked about the Apple computer, he likened it to a bicycle. And he says, like a bicycle for your mind. And he gave an example of a handful of animals that could move across the earth. And humans were not very efficient in moving across the earth, but it was like the dodo bird or something was much better. And he said because it's all about efficiency. So Mac is about unleashing potential. It's about unleashing creativity and human potential. It's like a bicycle for the mind. I think about ChatGPT, but the vision I get is like gasoline on a house fire. It's an accelerant, and perhaps it's a vivid metaphor that's sort of destructive. I don't necessarily think it's destructive. I think there's a lot of good that'll come out of it, but it is like an accelerant, probably for both good and bad. And we'll have to see. I think it's to to the extent that the user is in control of that and hopefully uses it for good, then good things will come out of it. People will reach their customers and be persuaded to buy things that they need. And unfortunately, there'll probably be some nefarious folks out there using it for ill purposes. And good people will hopefully prevent them from doing the things that might hurt other people. Like the Googles of the world will be able to hopefully put some guardrails in place. And other people's, Markus is a tool builder and Shaheen's a tool builder. So it's up to good people like EO people to do good in the world and to put it out there.
Couldn't agree with you more. Shaheen, any last thoughts?
No, I think that was that was pretty much it. I mean, yeah, I'm just excited to keep on learning about new technology as it comes out and seeing how I can implement it in my business and how it changes the world we live in.
Good. Guys, thank you. Thank you, Shaheen, Scott, and Markus, for sharing your experience. In a good spirit, I'm going to leave you with this. So if you would like to know more about this topic and other entrepreneurial stories, check out the EO Media House social media channels, where you can also find the relevant links of this podcast. My name is Robert Van Der Zwart, and thank you for joining.